and welcome to Dawn News English. I'm Nadia Naqi with you, and we have with us Fauzia Yazdani, electoral expert, and we shall be discussing about the decision taken by the Supreme Court, wherein it has made it clear once again that the general elections shall take place on the 8th of February 2024. The Election Commission of Pakistan has released the election schedule, and from here onwards begins the real fight amongst all the political parties, but with great responsibility on the Election Commission of Pakistan. Thank you so much, Fauzia. First of all, I'd like to ask you, because there's so much of questions going around since yesterday after this hurried, I would say, appeal filed by the Election Commission of Pakistan. Do you have any information on this, that whether the Chief Justice had invited the Chief Election Commissioner on this, or the Chief Election Commissioner really wanted himself to go and discuss these matters after the Lahore High Court single bench had given the stay on the notifications regarding the ROs, DROs, and AROs?
I don't have any concrete information on that, but I am given to understand that it was a two-way communication. So, I mean, who fired the shot, I cannot very confidently say on that, but I would presume that both parties were very adamant on their stance that 8th February is their deadline. I had the opportunity to engage with the Chief Election Commissioner when all this was going on, and he was saying, I'm not budging off on 8th February. Qazi Faiziza has also been saying that 8th February is my deadline. So I would presume that it was a mutual interest that resulted in something that we saw yesterday.
All right. Now the petitioner, that is Barrister Umair Niazi, I happened to speak with him, and he says that the training that had been suspended by the ECP, that is the training of the DROs and the AROs and all, he said that was not required. Our objection, that is PTI's objection, is on the ROs, and he says that their role comes way ahead, that is on the polling day. So the training should have continued. What ECP did is not what we asked for.
Okay,
I think that or what the Lahore High Court had directed.
Okay, I think that's very that's something which needs to be clarified. Number one, ROs and DROs, their role starts not on the election day, but from the day election schedule is announced, because RO is responsible for a constituency. Each National Assembly and Provincial Assembly has an RO, and then DRO is District Returning Officer that kind of coordinates all the ROs that are under them. That is one. These ROs and DROs, they are involved. DROs are responsible to ensure that polling stations are there on time, the electoral rolls, election supplies, everything is provided on time. They have a certain role to play, and the training is very important for the reason, one, it's a 5 year period. So even if you've had you were on the duty in the last election, lot has changed. This time, Election Act had undergone amendments. The election monitoring process and result transmission process, two very, very important things had improved. There are newer versions, so training was very important. Now, the second question, saying that why training was suspended. And this was not the ask. This was, if you would remember, was the question that yesterday Justice Tariq Masood also asked repeatedly. Why did you stop it? Now, let me tell you how training is happening. Training happens all over Pakistan simultaneously in cluster locations. So the vendors are paid and everything. Last election, UN system and donors paid over $1 million for these training. These are paid trainings. So imagine, I'm giving you a figure of 2018, approximately between 1 million to 1.2 million US dollars. So this time I would say it would be maybe over 1.5 to 2 million. Now what happens? Lahore High Court gave a judgment which raised so many questions. What is the level playing field and all that? Yes, they didn't say that. But simultaneously, next day, Islamabad High Court said the delimitation of two national assemblies falling in Islamabad perimeter suspended. Peshawar High Court has been moved. So if Election Commission would have gone ahead with the training, and the Chief Justice could have taken the suo motu, I had predicted that he would, and would have said, don't worry, we will give you the judges. Then who would invest that money again into it? So it's not easy that, it's a suspend. It's a very important logistic and coordination issue. And even now, I think the onus should be placed on Lahore High Court that led to suspension of this training that has costed money because all these vendors are prepaid. People
Okay.
have moved, deputy commissioners had moved to that cluster position. They are paid DSA, there are venue costs, there are trainers costs. So imagine the cost and all that. Now they will all have to come back again. So
Okay. And this training period is for 3 days?
It was for 3 days and it was down to 1.5 day now. So they would have to compress, I think, down to another 1 day.
Okay. Now, according to the Election Act,
Mhm.
you can have judicial officers as in officials from the judiciary as ROs, right? Or you could have your own officials, that is the Election Commission of Pakistan. And 3, it could be from the executive. Why is it that the Election Commission of Pakistan's, whose sole responsibility is to conduct free, fair, transparent elections, cannot provide its own officials so that all of this, mess is settled?
Okay. Let me take it at 2 levels. Number one, the Election Act says that government of Pakistan, it has to be, from the executive, which does not only mean that they would be district administration staff, they could be, from education, from health, from autonomous body, and then it's the lower judiciary or the high courts, and in consultation with provincial government and judiciary. Let me remind also, judiciary is the only organ where Election Commission, despite having a constitutional position, cannot order that please give it to us.
Okay.
Whereas in the constitution, provincial governments are under the order of the constitution to comply and arrange for these staff to be there. The DROs and ROs approximately are just 1110. They are senior positions, but then AROs and presiding officer together, they combine the electoral staff, which last time was around 850,000, and this time we are expecting it to be over 1 million people. Now, if we narrow it down to these 1100 and something people, that why couldn't they be out of Election Commission's own staff at the district level? And some people have raised it. Each district has a deputy district election officer and some skeleton staff. The Election Commission's own staff has to ensure pre-election starts into an election mode. They are responsible for electoral rolls, ballot electoral election supplies, polling stations location, monitoring. So there is so much that if you put the district election commissioner on the duty as an RO and DRO, then you would put everything to a huge chaos and mess. And then these 54 days, these ROs and DROs are on job for 54 days, right from issuance of, copies of the electoral roll, issuance of nomination paper, accepting them, rejecting them, cross-checking them with the banks and all that, and the whole 9 yards. So I think that even that question is absurd.
All right. So, okay, now, because the election schedule has been announced, so there is a different role happening. But having said that, because Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf still, and even today, the chairman had said that we still stand by this demand that it should be judicial officers as ROs instead of the executive, officials. And they have a reason, Fauzia. Election Commission is not there just to conduct the election. They need to provide equal opportunities, the level playing field, as also communicated last night by the Chief Election Commissioner in his, informal talks with the journalists. If there are issues with Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, because we've seen that, there are so many MPOs being awarded to so many officials by the district administration, how do you expect them to conduct the free, fair, and transparent elections?
Okay, I take it at 2 levels. Number one, this is in terms of our electoral history, DROs and ROs have come from judiciary, and the demand has always been like that. But it was 2013 election. PTI was the leading party that said this is an RO election. Who were the DROs and ROs? They were from judiciary, right? 2018, the other said the same thing. It was DROs and ROs. So they were from the judiciary. So we have in last 10 years tenure, and even before that, we have the evidence to say where the party who's losing the election puts the blame on someone. We do not, our political parties and leadership do not have that political maturity to accept the election. I'm not saying that elections are very fair and there are not issues, but those issues are elephant in the room, and they do not have the guts to actually call on the elephant in the room who's doing it, because everybody is in cohorts with the elephant in the room at one point or the other. Now saying that why, okay, there are, I'm picking up only this 1110 or 15 people who are DROs.
Okay.
And you can have, these are the people that have been reshuffled post appointment of the caretaker governments. So that is the demand. Again, that is also a constitutional demand, that when caretaker government comes in, it replaces the officers so that certain tick box element of neutrality is put in place. So these are not the same one who was serving under the PDM. Majority of them, they are new one. Where would you bring? You see, this is what Qazi Faizisa said yesterday in the court as well. People are unhappy with me as well. So what do we do? Either you raise the claim that this person was involved in XYZ, and
Right.
that's why it should not be. But just by saying by stroke of pen that all of them are corrupt, this is the same approach that PTI took, where they said bureaucracy is not helping us because they were hired by Nawaz Sharif and Zardari PPP or PML-N, let's say that.
Right.
You see, PTI came to power only between 2018 to now. They have, and those who are there in district as a DCs and commissioners and all that, they have 10, 15 years of service under their belt. So there was some other party who did that, and they come in through a Federal Public Service Commission examination. So I think, I'm not saying that some of them would not have a partisan behavior, may not be biased toward biased against PTI, but tainting all of them with one stroke of brush, I would not go for that.
Now the Election Commission is like really powerful after the amendment. Now it has the responsibility to take that action, because I guess they have now the powers. Not only initially they had the powers to withdraw them if there was a complaint, now they can take them to the court in a criminal case, if I'm not mistaken.
Not only they can take them to the court, they have the power to have the penalty imposed on them implemented. And the case in point is Daska election, where they had a full-fledged inquiry after the first inquiry was done, and those who were adjudged to have done wrong at that point of time, they made sure that establishment division, because they were federal employees, and those who were provincial employees get the penalty. People were demoted, disciplinary actions were initiated. Over and above, they can also put a criminal case also against them. So I think Election Commission is demonstrating. Election Commission in Pakistan, we suddenly want that, the Election Commission of Pakistan, one fine day, we will get up and it may become a Hulk. It cannot become a Hulk. It is going through institutional reformation as our other institutions are doing. It has same limitations as others have limitation. It is represented by same set of people like you and me who have limitation. But we should, if we keep on kind of picking up, nitpicking small little things, then we always would have the issue. Let's put them to task or flog them when we see a thing. Assuming, I may not like you, you may not like me, and we can say, no, I don't like what she's saying. But can that hold the ground if we are alleging someone? This thing that, my job only is to allege someone, and burden of proof is not me who's alleging on, rather on someone else. I think we need to call that out as well.
All right. Now, there's one thing of having powers, enough powers through law, which the Election Commission of Pakistan has. And then it is to be able to exercise these powers, because there are limitations And yes, there are always those elephants in the room that we tend not to talk about.
Yeah.
But, a recent example of the Election Commission of Pakistan that wrote a letter to the administration to remove Islamabad IG and Islamabad Deputy Commissioner, which the caretaker government did not pay any heed to. So why is it that Election Commission is still quiet on that? Why is it unable to exercise its powers that has been entrusted to them by law?
Okay. You see, what they did was, it was against a complaint which was not related to election matters. It was a complaint of something which was done in terms of education of their everyday business, and that was complained against. So I would not say that for now, I would put them or judge Election Commission when they do not take action against electoral complaints. Let's keep electoral complaints and administrative nature of complaints aside. Right now, our focus should be electoral complaints and how that are being handled. There are two things very important: having powers, the word you use, having power and having the ability to use them. Presiding officers on the day of election have magisterial power under section 30. So they can actually sentence people to jail also for 30 days, right on the spot. They can issue FIR. The deputy district election commissioners get equal powers of a deputy commissioner. And at that time is more important as per the Election Act than a deputy commissioner. But can both of them exercise it when they are on ground? They have not done that. Maybe most of them would not do it. But Daska election, I think, and the how the case was prosecuted, maybe I'm expecting, fingers crossed, would give them some hope and courage to implement it. Otherwise, a poor deputy district election commissioner who's equivalent to a deputy commissioner in that district and has hold more power would not lock horns with either a district police officer or district commissioner. So that is something which is more hierarchical, which is more like an institutional power game that would remain. No election commission can overcome that.
Okay, now that the election schedule has been released last night, Election Commission of Pakistan is now the driving force, right? And all the other institutions, except for the judiciary, as you mentioned earlier, will be working in coordination with the ECP, and ECP giving directions. Is that right?
Yes, absolutely right. Now even the caretaker government would have limitation. They cannot announce development schemes also. Their role would be more limited into the administrative work. Then they cannot, like, for example, I'll give you the example of Punjab government or Sindh government. They said, we are doing this and this is what we have done, and opening a road or doing something. No, they cannot do it anymore. So that would be stopped. And now I think there is more eyes are on election commission, and there's more responsibility on election commission to look out for these things, that the caretaker governments, be it federal or for provincial governments, do not cross the line, which they have been, kind of making it a dotted line, going there and here. So
now actually the work of the Election Commission now begins in terms of its monitoring and to be able to lead to a free, fair and transparent election. Lastly, because we've just got 2 minutes left, I would want to know that the Election Commission of Pakistan, the scrutiny of the papers, once a candidate files the papers, there is a question that, that Mr. Sarfaraz Bukti, who served as the member of, caretaker government, as Federal Minister Interior, he has resigned. And we are not sure until he files his nomination papers. But, there are a lot of very reliable sources who say that he's going to be contesting the elections. Is that allowed? And in that case, what shall be the role of ECP in terms of, going through these papers and accepting it?
Number one, the Election Act and Constitution is pretty silent on it. Can they do it or not? But I think Mr. Bukti it would be highly politically unethical of him to do that, because you have enjoyed the powers, and those people who come into caretaker government, they do not contest. Or even the earlier it was that even next to the one of the like immediate family is also not contesting. Would election commission allow it? Would DRO say that, you know, if your family can or wife cannot contest, how can you contest? Let's see when he puts the paper in place.
I think that's going to be a real test to see the ECP and all the powers that we've been talking about since so many days, Fauzia. But thank you so much. And as election proceeds, we'll be having more of you and your opinions on this to ask you questions, how the Election Commission actually behaves with powers and how much of a responsibility. That's all for now. Take care and goodbye.